Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast, hosted by Jake Bolden and presented by the Conseco Group General Contracting and Mighty Dog Roofing. Don't miss another Tuesday episode by subscribing to the podcast on all streaming platforms or catch our visual presentation uploaded every week on YouTube. Don't miss our next ticket giveaways by subscribing and following on all Blue Raider Podcast social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Blue Raider Pod. Welcome back to the Blue Raider Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Bolden. Today's episode, we are wrapping up the regular season for basketball. So joining us is voice of the Lady Raiders, Joe Fisher, to talk all things Lady Raiders hoops as we have a much anticipated regular season championship game this Thursday in Lynchburg, Virginia. He'll be there, boots on the ground, but we're going to have a word with him first. We also, joining the episode, is going to be Tre Green, the shooting guard for the men's basketball program. We had him prior to their trip there to Las Cruces, and thankfully we were able to work out all the kinks. Came out with a sweep this last weekend, and then stick around to the very end where we will be joined by captain of the MTSU Hockey Club, Linden Palmer, to talk about their recent conference championship this last week. A lot of good stuff, but before we get into the episode today, I want to take just a second to thank our sponsors of today's episode, beginning with Mighty Dog Roofing of Nashville East. When it comes to your home, you can trust Mighty Dog Roofing Nashville East for all of your needs. As a veteran and locally owned business, we're honored to be one of just 11 Owens Corning contractors nationwide to win their prestigious service award. From roofing and gutters to windows and siding, our expert team delivers top quality craftsmanship and unmatched service. We're here to protect your home with pride and precision. Choose Mighty Dog Roofing Nashville East, where excellence is a tradition. Call them today at 615-MD Roofs. That's ROOFS, or visit their website at mightydogroofing.com to schedule your free quote today. And also to the Conseco Group. Since 1987, the Conseco Group has been turning dreams into reality. Whether it's pre-construction consulting, construction management, design build, or renovations and improvements, we're here to exceed your expectations. At Conseco Group, we don't just deliver, we deliver with passion, precision, and unparalleled quality. Our hands-on approach ensures your investment is maximized and your vision is brought to life. From Clarksville down to Columbia and beyond, you can trust the Conseco Group to handle every detail with expertise and care. If you're ready to build your future, contact the Conseco Group today at 615-298-9907 or visit their website at consecogroup.com. Again, big thank you to Mighty Dog Roofing Nashville East and the Conseco Group for sponsoring today's episode. Now, let's get right into it. Joining us on the episode is going to be voice of the Lady Raiders. It is Joe Fisher. Joe, thanks for joining us once again.
Well, it's good to be with you, Jake. Thank you.
Well, Joe, big week, as I prefaced there at the very beginning. You're going down to Lynchburg. Tell me, what is the buzz around the Lady Raiders? They've had this one circled for a very long time. It's all the way back to early January, but what's the buzz looking like there in the clubhouse?
It's interesting because I think Liberty's had this one circled too. You know, this is a game, and I was talking to Kyle Turnham, who does the games with me, and he said it would not make any difference what the records are. When these two teams get together, they just flat out don't like each other. And they're going to bring their best game. Liberty's going to bring their best. Middle will bring their best. I thought the Lady Raiders did a really nice job this past week of not looking ahead, of taking care of business on the home court, taking care of senior day, and knowing that that's looming out there. Now, Rick Insel did tell me right after the game, on Saturday, he knew immediately they had at least locked up a top 2 seed for the tournament, so don't have to play on Tuesday, which, as you well know, is a big, big plus to be able to wait and play on Wednesday. So that's guaranteed regardless of what happens this week. But I know, and you know, they want to put another conference championship in the column. And simply, if they can win on Thursday night, that happens.
Absolutely. And you talk about the top 2 seed. Not only that, you get the extra day of break, which I know is a huge deal for all those reasons. But I want to draw back to you've been around the game for a long time. Has there ever been a situation where a team has played someone January 4th and then turn around and play them 2 months later in a conference setting that has nothing to do with the tournament? It's such an odd way to schedule it, where you have this massive gap looming. And as you said, both of these teams, there's a lot of off-court stuff, but obviously a championship looming large here. But 2 months to play the two best teams has its kinks to it.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of like they did a bell curve, and they said, okay, we'll let you play early, and then we'll let you play late. And if things go as they certainly could go, we could see them again, in Huntsville. So it is interesting because I do know certainly the Liberty team we're going to see is not the same as it was when we saw them in early January. But I would tell you this Middle Tennessee team is not either. As decent as they were then to get that win against Liberty at home, this is a much better defensive team that's playing right now. In fact, they're the best in the country statistically, defensively. You come in holding opponents to 32% from the field for the year. And that's only going to get better because they held UTEP the other day to 25%. So they have hung their hat on their defense, and that's the phrase that Coach Insel used after the game on Saturday. And when they give up less than 60 points in a game, they are 22-0. So it's been quite striking to see how good they've been defensively.
Absolutely. And you bring it up now. You talked about how they didn't overlook this week, which is something that always you worry about. They call them trap games in football. I don't know if basketball really uses that same terminology, but you have that concern because Thursday night you have Molly Kaiser, who is a potential player of the year candidate. They held her to a season low of 7 points. Jalen Gregory does what she does best. They put her on the best score of the other team and absolutely locked her down. The field goal attempts were relatively down. It wasn't her lowest of the season, but even keeping the ball out of her hands was impressive. New Mexico State is potentially your semifinal matchup. So again, that's something to keep an eye on there. But you hold New Mexico State to 41 points. Tamia Scott scores 20 points. And then on Saturday, UTEP, a team that in years past has always given it struggles for whatever reason. UTEP is the last place team in the conference, but they always bring their struggles. Offense had a slow go of it first half. They had picked it up in the second, but they really put their stamp there on the defense. As you said, 35 points. That is tied for the lowest amount that they've given up this season, which, in my opinion, you should do against the worst team in your conference. But it can't go unsaid that holding anyone to 35 points is unheard of. I don't care what level you play at. 35 points in a 40-minute game is an impressive feat. But to kind of draw back on this last week, as we kind of put a nice little bow on this winning weekend, senior weekend, really, I'm proud of obviously what Jalen was able to do. Tamia continues to kind of put herself over the top this last week. I told her, I was like, do you even think about the player of the year conversation? But she scored 45 more points this week. Joe, someone that's seen her all year, Nos Boldareva's one that's in that same conversation. You could easily make an argument that we've got 2 player of the year candidates on roster.
No, there's no doubt about that. And you could almost stretch it to Jalen as well and throw her in the mix. But to me, the way Tamia has played down the stretch, she's just elevated her game. She always had the ability to slash to the basket. She always had the ability to shoot the three-pointer. But now she has added taking players off the dribble, pulling up and taking that mid-range jumper. Now they don't know how to guard her. Because if you lay back, she'll take the three. If you come out, she's going by you, and she's been terrific. You mentioned Molly Kaiser. I think is an outstanding player, and certainly deserves to be in the conversation for Player of the Year. Jalen gets the lion's share of the credit for the defense, but it was key. It was a team defense on her. Whenever Kaiser got the ball, there was always somebody else coming to help. And as you said, Kaiser 3 of 10. From the field and held to just 7 points. That, to me, is the element of this Lady Raider team that has grown. I remember a couple of weeks into the conference season, there was frustration on the coaching staff because they just could not get this team to gel defensively. They weren't understanding the concept that they were asking for of team defense, of help side defense, of when to leave your man and when to double down on somebody. And they decided at that point, about 3 weeks into conference play, that they were just going to load up on working on defense. They were going to put everything they had into that. Rick Insel said Pat Summitt had always told him, whenever your team is struggling to find its identity, double down on defense. Well, that's exactly what they've done. And since then, they've been absolutely terrific. I mean, there have been times where you're playing teams and you think they're not even going to score. If you don't make a mistake, they're not going to, and they're certainly not going to score enough to beat us. Now, this Liberty team is a better shooting team, certainly a better three-point shooting team, the best we've seen in a while. in that category. So that will be a different challenge for this Lady Raider defense. But the other thing I'll mention is I'm always leery of senior day. The emotion that goes with senior day, and compounded with this team because of where the players are from. To have, Alina's parents come from Finland, to have Nas, parents and boyfriend come from Russia, to make that trip when they haven't seen each other that much, in a long, long time. All that emotion, wanting to play well, dealing with the scare of Boulder Ava falling hard in that first half, and thinking, oh my gosh, she's not going to be able to finish her senior day, and her able to do that. The roar when she came back in, when she got off the bench and went back to the scorer's table, that whole Murphy Center lit up. It was a tremendous moment. And then to have Jalen and all her family there, and then Cab, and it was just and of course Jada Granum is walking around saying, "Yeah, I'm the winningest player here," and has got a chance to add more to that. So I was really proud of the way they handled all of that. And then at the end of it, and I know you were there, the introduction to the players, getting the frame jersey, getting the picture made, and Coach Insel saying, "If you're here, come on down the floor." And hundreds of fans came down to the floor for what's got to be one of the biggest senior day pictures ever. It was, I don't know how many people are in it, but it was just a really nice way to cap off that day.
And it's such a special group. I know I talked to Tamia about it. She's been a part of this big run. I mean, this is already a historic program as it is, but as a group now for 4 years running, so we'll take Jada out of the picture, but 108 wins over the last 4 years is the most in the history of MTSU basketball, not just the Rick Insel era. We've talked about the 2 NCAA tournament appearances, the WNIT Final Four run, and in Jalen's and in Blakely's and Boulder Ava's freshman year. But then, talked about Granum, a girl that's been she breeds what it takes to be a Blue Raider. She stuck it out. She's going to be a unicorn when it's all said and done as a player that stayed somewhere for 5 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So very, very special people, not just basketball players, but people that these ladies are. But I want to we'll take a step back here, talking about Jalen, and when we talk about the MVP conversation, we talk about where she is to this team. We kind of lose sight of who the player of the year or the most valuable player is, right? The award always seems to go to the best scorer on the best team, and maybe that's the right choice, but let's call it for what it is, the most valuable player. And you talk about the doubling down on the defense, and someone like Jalen, who really is the pivot that this team needs in those moments when the ball ain't falling in the hoop. This team has struggled offensively. They know they struggle offensively, but when they double down on that defense, the energy just turns around. The shot eventually falls, and Jalen is the epitome of that. Someone who, if the shot's not falling, she's doing her job on the other side of the floor. And I really like to label her as the most valuable player, maybe not the best scorer on a nightly basis, but she is by far the most valuable. And we certainly need that effort. As you said, there's so many weapons this Liberty team has. Joe, as I know we wrap this up here going on, first of all, people will love to know the travel schedule. How does that work for you guys this week? Do they get there a day early? What is that going to look like? And then, but as we ramp up for this trip, the Liberty trip in itself is a big story, but you got to make the big long hike down to Miami there on Saturday as well. So there's again a little few kinks with this week that come with the travel schedule. So tell me a little bit the preparation, and then what should we expect from the Lady Raiders on this Thursday?
Well, hopefully first we won't have to fire a bus driver like we did a couple of weeks ago. That was an interesting turn of events. I've never had that happen on a trip before, but nonetheless, we did have those issues. The good thing about this trip, my understanding, I have not seen the final itinerary, is this is going to be the only trip this year where we will charter. We're not going to fly commercial. We're going to fly charter. So it'll be just us on the plane, not having to go through all of the things you go through commercially, although you still have to go through screening, even though it's your own plane. But we will fly up Wednesday. My guess is because we're not having to go through the hoops to get there really, really early. The usual trips, we have left early in the mornings to get there. I think we're going to leave midday, maybe close to noon, fly directly in on Wednesday up there. They will practice there, on Wednesday afternoon. and be there for that. And then they'll go back for a shoot around again on Thursday before the evening game. My guess is, and I haven't seen it yet, that we will probably fly out Thursday night after the game and get on down to Miami. They could wait until and go on Friday morning, but if they do what they usually do, my guess is we'll head to the airport after the game Thursday night and go. But they'll be there, and again, the luxury of not having to fly commercial, we'll have a little more flexibility and a little more leeway with the travel. So it's nice to have that going into this very important last week.
Absolutely. Well, talk about Tamia Scott and what she said this last week. The thing that this team needs to have down the stretch is some consistency on offense. And I hope, again, seeing that there in Lynchburg is going to be pivotal to them clinching that third straight regular season title. Well, Joe, lastly here, men's basketball. I know a lot of people are excited about this and they want me to tell them all these clinching scenarios. And I don't have the answers. I'm not the guy, but Kennesaw State wins a big one on the road at Liberty on Sunday. That definitely gives an MTSU an opportunity for the men to slide into that 1 seed. Here's where I'm at with it. Just get to the top 2 seed. You already touched on it with the women. You get the extra day. People are saying, well, you want to avoid Liberty in the bracket, or you want to avoid to be honest, if you're going to win a championship, you got to beat them. If it's in the semis, if it's in the championship, you got to beat them. So I'm indifferent. But the 1-2, they get the extra day rest. It's a big deal. They have to take care of business at home. I will do my darndest as someone who will market this game. If you got nothing to do on Thursday, you bring people over to that game on Thursday night at the Murphy Center. Tune in on your phone there. Watch the Lady Raiders play, watch the men play all at the same time with this lovely Conference USA scheduling. But the men have quite the task ahead of them, and in some aspect, they do control their own destiny with a win on Thursday to at least get that top 2.
Yeah, they do. If they can do that, they get the top 2. They can't control whether they get the number 1 or not, and that's going to go all the way to Saturday. That's going to go to Kennesaw State at Jacksonville State, and if Kennesaw can beat them, well, then that opens up the scenarios that you talked about. But really impressive for them to go on the road and win 2 close games, 2 real battles, to beat New Mexico State by 5. And of course, Cam Weston had 30. He, in fact, was named Conference USA Player of the Week as a result of his play this past week. And then to find a way to come from behind in the last minutes and hold UTEP scoreless, for over 3 minutes down the stretch and win that game by 1. And the drama of the last second shot. I mean, they had a shot to win the thing, and you get a key block to stop that. It just really, really impressive for them to go on the road, get 20 wins now, and as you said, put themselves in the conversation. Now they have a chance they can control a lot of their destiny, not all of it. But really, I agree with you. Just find a way to get a top 2. As you said, they get a Wednesday game, then off Thursday if you win. It just makes so much of a difference.
Well, you're not going to experience any more of a tournament atmosphere than you will on Thursday night there in the Murphy Center. So again, if you have plans, cancel them. Get there. You're seeing your folks on church on Wednesday night. Say, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Get them there. Get them a ticket. I know they're not that expensive. You can get them there. Let's fill out the Murphy Center. But Joe Fisher, voice of the Lady Raiders. Once again, I appreciate you taking the time, and of course, safe travels on this long journey to Virginia, then Miami, back way to Murfreesboro.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Always good to be with you, Jake.
Did you know the Blue Raider podcast has an online store? You can now support your favorite podcast by checking out our selection at our website, blueraiderpodcast.com. And stay tuned for new merchandise releases as we collaborate with athletes in NIL partnerships.
Joining the Blue Raider podcast, it is junior shooting guard Tre Green, known to his teammates and coaches as TG. TG, how's it going?
I'm just going well, Jake. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I know we made the joke earlier this year. Everyone was calling you TG in the post game. That's the nickname they give you. I overheard it as Trigger, which I seem to think is a better nickname personally. But is that something that's kind of caught on?
They call me that occasionally. JP, he likes to call me that a lot. So it's called.
Yeah, JP, and I believe Cam was the other one that was in, or maybe it was Counter. I know it was J-Rock that was in there that were both there amidst that press conference interview, talking a little bit about you. One thing that's interesting about you that I find admirable, and I know we've talked about this a lot in your post-game pressers, is about your ability to kind of come in and fill that void, whether it's on the offense or defensive end. But you've kind of been tasked with both. Tell me a little bit about your growth this season. What have you learned about yourself and how you fit on this team full of veterans?
I feel like I just gotta stay true to myself. Some games where I don't play as many minutes as I would want to. You still gotta have that push for your teammates. And when I do get the minutes that I would usually want, I still gotta keep that same mindset. Don't get too high, don't get too low on yourself. Just stay level-headed. And I feel like that's really helped me throughout this season to continue to provide for my team, give them everything that they need on the offensive side, defensive side, wherever I have to, provide. And I feel like that just helps the team overall.
In your development offensively as a player, I know your freshman year, as you talked about, your minutes have really ticked up. And I know the three-point shooting was one of those things that was your specialty coming in. You didn't really find that groove early on, but we've seen it develop, especially this year. And a little behind the scenes for those that are listening, you're in Las Cruces right now. You're fresh off of your career high 5 3-pointers made against Sam Houston State. From that perspective, does this season just kind of feel like that monkey's off your back because now you are that threat that we all knew you could be? So mentally, talk about how that part of your game has changed.
I feel like going into after my freshman season, over the summer, I was making 500 shots a day. So I feel like building off of that and finally being able to showcase it in these seasons, my sophomore season, junior season, I feel like that just gives me the confidence that I need to just keep doing it.
And being surrounded by a lot of these older guys, and it's crazy for me to call you a young guy. You're a junior, so you're by all definitions an upperclassman, but you have so many senior guys. What have you learned? I know you've been behind JP. Cam's been there this whole time. You've got new guys like J-Rock who have tons of college experience. What has it been like being around those guys? And again, developing your game, not only on the floor, but off the floor with their type of mentalities that they carry.
And the locker room is just an amazing environment to be around. Those guys being a little older than me, even though, like you said, I'm a junior, I'm considered an upperclassman, it still feels like I'm one of the younger guys learning every day from those guys like JP, Cam, J-Rock, like you said, they're older guys. Just what they bring to the game is so easy to learn from them because, those guys, their game is just so powerful, bro. Like, I love it. It's just really easy to learn from those guys.
And you've been here since 22-23. That was your first season, and to get people back to that mindset of where we were. Florida Atlantic that was their Final Four run year. You were one layup away from DeAndre Dishman from upsetting the Florida Atlantic team. You've been a part of really successful teams like the one I just named, but this one is just kind of special. What do you see with this group that we haven't necessarily experienced in years past?
You can sort of feel that energy when you're on a championship team. My first season here, you felt that energy, but this season right here, I feel it even more. Like it's just a feeling. It's hard to explain. It's just that feeling that like the camaraderie that you have with your guys, the chemistry that you have, how everyone we love each other, man. Like this brotherhood, it's really a brotherhood this season, and it's been like that every other season I've been here, but more so this season. And I feel like having that brotherhood, it just allows you to even play even better on the court with each other when you love each other off the court as much as we do. So I feel like this season we really have a chance to do something special.
It's funny you kind of stumble there when you're trying to describe it because Cam was the same way. I know J-Rock was the same way. Like there's just something about the energy of the room with you guys collectively. I would say it's the chemistry. This team just seems to love one another. They seem to, and that always travels really well. And we're talking about how hard it is to win games in Conference USA, especially winning on the road. Again, behind the scenes, you're in Las Cruces. You got two big matchups, your last two road matchups of the year in New Mexico State and UTEP. When you're in these road environments, how pivotal is it to be able to have guys have that kind of chemistry like you do with your teammates?
Well, the crowd actually, when you're home, it allows chemistry just in that of itself alone. The crowd, someone makes a big shot, they get loud, and everyone on the team gets loud, they get excited. When you're away, you don't really have that crowd bringing that extra energy for you. So, you have to bring your own energy. And when you have a brotherhood like we do, that energy brings itself. Some guy makes a shot, everyone on the bench gets loud. You see that, and it makes you, give you more energy for the next play. Say you make a big shot, get back on defense. You see your guys pulling for you, pushing for you, just cheering you on. And that just gives us all the energy and basically the push that we need to come out on top on the road.
Well, I want to keep diving a little bit more into how you feel about this team as we move down the stretch, but I want to bring it back into you a little bit. Another part of your game, I know we talked about the scoring has been increased, but you have been tasked with guarding some of the heavy hitters this conference provides. I know we talked about Lamar Wilkerson this last Saturday. You've had to guard Jaron Pierre. You've at some point had to guard Adrian Woolley. Talk about this conference in particular, how tough it is, really, how the depth that there is at guard. But two, you, again, I say young, but you've been tasked with coming off the bench, having to guard these players. What has the mentality been like, or what has the conversations been like, rather, with you and Coach McDevitt kind of having to fill that role of the guy that comes off the bench and has to guard the other team's top scorer?
My mentality is just do what needs to be done, do what the team needs of me, and just provide what I need to provide for my team in that moment. Like you said, there's some very good ball players in this league, and I come out of guarding JP, Cam, and J Rock. We all know how good those guys are. I guard those guys every single day in practice, so I feel like they really prepared me in a great way to guard these other guys in this conference, and I feel like that is really what helps me be successful when guarding those guys.
If I remember correctly, you got switched on to Otis Frazier a couple times back when El Paso was here. That's another big body, like something that JP, I know he's had to front some centers at time to time. It's just always like that next man up mentality. As you said it, well, you got to do what you got to do. Again, I'll bring it back to the conversations internally with you and your teammates. Do you guys ever feel like you're in a situation at any point that someone isn't there on the backside help, or someone's always in the right place at the right time? That just seems to be what you guys experience on a daily basis on the defensive side, because guys like Esam, guys like Chris who's really stepped it up on the defensive side. But talk about that defensive intensity that when this team is performing at their best, I think this team is unstoppable. Would you agree?
I 100% agree with that. A lot of people say best offense is defense, and I really believe in that. When you hold teams to low scoring numbers, it really allows you to be more successful on the offensive end. And we as a team, we pride ourselves in defense. If we're not playing good defense, I feel like our offense is kind of stagnant, honestly, because we're usually good in transition with the numbers say. And when we're not playing good defense, we don't have as many opportunities to get out in transition and score the ball. So I feel like when we playing good defense as a team, we're really unstoppable.
And as we continue this discussion on the team, tell me how you've graded out this season. I know you talk about how it feels. You talk about how this team can do special things. Have we seen the best this team can play so far? Or is there more that's coming in these last couple games?
I still don't think we played our best. Honestly, I don't. There's always nights where you can improve on things, and I feel like we've yet to show that our best ball, honestly. Every single night, you're going to make mistakes. It's inevitable. But in order to be able to limit those mistakes, that's what really makes a great team. And I feel like once we really start playing that quality of ball, we'll really be unstoppable. We're third in the conference right now with a couple games left. And I feel like we really have a chance to do something special if we can really win out these last games, get the help we need from the other teams in front of us, and I feel like we'll be good.
So tell me, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Objectively, what does this team need to do to kind of play that best basketball? What does that look like to you? Is it the defensive end? Is it more emphasis on the defense? Do you think that you need to score the ball better? What does it look like to you where this team is at their best?
Us at our best, we're playing good defense, rebounding the ball. Rebounding the ball is a huge factor to it, because you don't want to give teams more opportunities that they need to really score on you. Low turnovers, great shot quality on the offensive end, moving the ball, no selfish play. So if I really had to boil it down, I would really say rebounding and good ball movement on the offensive side.
Well, you're going to be tasked with that this week. I know with New Mexico State, obviously a low-scoring affair there last time, but I do think the Aggies have one coming with Esam back, and then UTEP, one of the best turnover teams in the country. So I look forward to seeing that. Again, the fans are going to be watching this after these two games. But as we go home this last week of the season, you've got Liberty, and then you've got FIU on senior night. I'm going to bring it back to all these guys. I don't know where these guys stand on eligibility. I know there's this new ruling that could bring guys back. So I'm sure you're more in the know of that. I'm not going to ask you to break any news for us, but whatever senior walks on senior day, tell me what this group has meant to you. Some of these guys, like I said, you've been with for all 3 seasons. What does this group mean to you, and what does it mean to the program, MTSU?
Man, being able to, whoever walks on senior night, like you said, we don't know what the eligibility, but whoever walks, man, that's one of my brothers. It really doesn't matter how long they've even been here. If they've been here for 1 year, that's my brother, man. When we step on that court together, we brothers. Play like brothers. We in the locker room like brothers. We just attack basketball every single day like brothers. That's why I said it's really a brotherhood. And I would just be really proud of whoever is walking on that night.
Well, the Raiders face the FIU Panthers this Saturday at 12 noon. So, of course, be there for whoever walks. But nonetheless, hopefully it'll be a good, strong season. I know Thursday night's one that a lot of people have been circling and excited about, that rematch with Liberty. I hope you guys are as well. But Trey, TG, I appreciate you taking the time on your busy travel schedule out west and joining the show.
Of course. I appreciate you.
The BRP is proudly partnered with Rivals Network affiliate GoMiddle.com. Subscribe for premium content for all the inside scoop on MTSU athletics, recruiting, or join our free forums to discuss today's episode and all things Blue Raiders. The BRP is also partnered with the College Huddle, a nationwide collaborative effort with over 80 Division I programs represented. Check out the website at thecollegehuddle.com to catch up on all college football content with daily articles and episodes provided by the largest college podcast community on the internet.
All right. In our final segment here on the Blue Raider podcast, I am happy to be joined by president and captain of the MTSU Hockey Club, Linden Palmer. Linden, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Linden, a big congratulations to you, especially from a lot of Blue Raider fans that maybe didn't know much about the MTSU hockey team, but obviously for great reason this year. You guys are Division II College Hockey South Conference champions. Give us a little introduction into like who you are, how did you kind of find your way onto the MTSU Hockey Club? And as we learned before recording, it's you and other students that run this program. And I'm really impressed with what you guys were able to do, not only off the ice, but obviously winning a championship. So tell me about this season as a whole, what it meant to you to win a championship and what it takes to really put all this together.
Yeah, so I grew up playing hockey in Tennessee. Obviously there wasn't a whole lot of ice back in the day, but grew up playing junior preds, flyers, wanted to stay local for college and decided MTSU. I knew that they had a team. It wasn't great when I came, but my sophomore year, we won 4 total games. So I took over presidency after that year and decided that it was time to make a change. I was tired of losing, wanted to win. So finally getting that first one under our belts is huge. It'll boost us now that we have a juniors program called the Spartans they play out of Clarksville, but we have a lot of interest from those kids as well. So just making headlines, making, I guess, big changes has helped a lot, obviously, with the championship.
Well, tell me a little bit too about ice hockey here in Middle Tennessee. Again, myself, the Predators are here. That's kind of my fandom. Always has been, just by virtue of proximity. Obviously, the hype around hockey really grew for me, anyways, when the Preds made that run. What was it, 2016 to the Stanley Cup Finals there against the Penguins. All eyes in the country were there, and then really Nashville kind of took a hold of ice hockey. That's obviously in the prime of when you're in, I assume, middle school, getting into high school. Did you see the growth of hockey around that also here in Middle Tennessee?
Oh, 100%. We had, I think before that run, we had maybe 2 rinks. One ended up closing down, and then the Predators out of nowhere built a rink in Antioch, built a rink in Bellevue, and then just recently another one in Clarksville. So just seeing that growth, seeing the amount of people wanting to play hockey after their cup run, it's been amazing. I mean, there's a lot of men's league out there in Antioch. I think there's probably 5 or 6 different leagues there, same amount at Centennial, same amount at Bellevue. So it really does help when you have a great team around you, and it just pushes people to want to get involved.
Now, you're a Wilson County born and raised kid. You went to Lebanon High School. I know, again, we talked about this a little off air, but the process, again, about playing in high school, because TSSAA, the authority of an athletics association here in Tennessee, doesn't sponsor hockey currently, but obviously there are clubs there as well. Talk about I want to hear about that process about there as well, because it's more of a tryout. You have a county representative team kind of style. And then as you already touched on, you do also have things that are outside of school, like you have clubs, much like there is AAU basketball and those kind of things. But, as far as the growth you've experienced in that as well, obviously club and hockey wasn't something that I had at all in high school, but now it seems to be kind of a regular thing.
Yeah, that's growing as well. Unfortunately, my freshman and sophomore year of high school, we weren't a tryout with Mount Juliet like they are now. So I was only able to play my junior and senior year. But now, I mean, the amount of teams that there are, plus they just started a middle school league, which I thought was really interesting because we didn't have that. So it was tough being in high school, telling your friends, hey, come out to the hockey games, and then, your teammates with your school's rival. And so you're wearing their colors as well. And it's hard to get your friends out there, but ultimately they would show up just because you're their friends.
Well, it's unique to see this growth of hockey, especially in a Southeast state. But let's turn this back to where you guys are at MTSU. You talked about only winning 4 games your sophomore campaign. You take over the captaincy, the presidency, and then things kind of explode for you. You said you made some big changes. What were some of those changes? And then collectively as a team, I mean, obviously the talent just kind of showed up. How is there a recruiting process for the club? How does all that work?
So I went the route of a total rebrand, got new equipment, got new jerseys, everything. And so we just wanted a new identity. And then I brought on a coach. His name is James Murray. Fantastic job. We started finally doing some recruiting because that's something MTSU never did. So we reached out. We went to a lot of the high school games around here, pulled some of their best players. We reached out to a bunch of juniors teams locally and far away. There's a lot of pool in Middle Tennessee. I mean, you got Broadway right right down the road, so it brings a lot of kids here. But yeah, our coach does a tremendous job at recruiting. I've been a part of that. Our vice president Zach Giblin has been a part of that. So that was something we really wanted to focus on. My junior year was just bringing more kids in.
So you're a senior this year. I know you're graduating. I know that there's a lot that goes on with NCAA sports as far as their graduation status. For you, it would lead me to believe that this is it. But you've told me that maybe there is a graduate season for you next year.
There is potentially. Still thinking about it, but there's a lot of people around me that want to see me play another year or two. So we'll see.
And there's nothing. Let me just ask this: is there anything holding you back from that? Is there so many years that you can play in College Hockey South?
There's a lot of years. My freshman year, we had a 7th year senior playing on the team, and then proceeded to play the next year as well. So 8 years he played. But really what it comes down to is school. I'm kind of tired of school. I'm being honest, but that was A. B, my body. Hockey takes a toll on your body, and being 22, I feel like I'm 40. So I don't know. It'll kind of be an off-season decision.
Well, if you do it 8 times, I don't see why not, but I agree. All those reasons you listed, you got to be, you're in a different situation than a college basketball or college football player is. You have to put yourself through school, those kind of things. So there's a lot at hand for you. But another part about your career here at MTSU, I know that you were one of the few that have scored 100 points in your career here at MTSU. What does it mean to you, obviously, to be a part of that prestigious club? Hopefully there's more that add to that in the years to come as this program continues to grow. But what can you attribute that success to?
I think it's the guys that play around me. I think I have more goals than assists. So the guys around me are setting me up for success alone. Really, I think I had like 40 points my freshman year, had a bad season sophomore year, obviously with 4 wins. But then we brought in a kid he was an NCAA transfer, and just playing with him made my life so much easier. So I give credit to all the guys around me.
As you move forward, whether you do decide to play or you step aside, what will your involvement be around the hockey program?
I've decided to hand presidency over to my VP. Kind of tired. I mean, not tired of it. I really do enjoy doing it. But if I do grad school, I'll be working as well. So, doing a full-time job, school, playing hockey, be a lot to take on presidency as well.
Absolutely. Where's the program looking ahead? Now you have a lot of people that are really, I guess, involved. They really want to know a little bit more about this hockey program. Again, it kind of feels like a miniature version of what the Predators did years ago. And I've got a surprise here in just a second I want to show you as far as where I landed on this whole hockey thing. But, where's the program headed now? There's still young, upcoming talent. Can we expect another run at the conference championship this next year?
Oh, 100%. I think we only have 2 or 3 guys for sure leaving. And then we're bringing on, gosh, so much talent. So the sky's the limit for the team next year. I'm super excited whether I'm on it or not to see how they do. But I mean, we have nationals in a couple weeks. If we don't get it done, I know that team next year will.
And tell me some of these kids that are returning this next year. What about these kids in particular? Like any names you could give us that we should look forward to, that are doing really well, people that have surprised you this season?
I can't give out names just yet because they haven't fully committed. They're at different teams right now, maybe different schools, and they haven't fully told their coach they're leaving. So I can't put them on blast. But we have one guy that's coming from NCAA, couple guys coming from Tier 1 juniors, and then another couple coming from Tier 3 juniors. So, I mean, they're all great players. A couple of them are coming out to our practice on Wednesday night just to meet some of the guys. But once those guys fully commit, you'll see it on our socials, and just know that those are the players.
I understand totally. Well, you told me too that you're also in charge of the whole equipment. So one thing, that equipment ordering, jerseys, those kind of things. I, for one, capitalized on the jersey purchase a couple of years ago. One, I would hope that it supports the program, but for those that don't already, they need to do so. But I want to know about the Lightning uniform that everyone loves. Who designed that? Who is responsible for that? Because that is one of the coolest sweaters I've ever seen in hockey.
Well, I appreciate that. That was my design. Kind of took the logo and ran with it. But with the NHL doing a reverse retro jersey last year, kind of wanted to do the same. So I went down that line, and a lot of people actually thought the cream was a white. And once they finally saw it, they understood what it was for. But the funny story is I got on a website called Men's League Sweaters, where a bunch of like men's league teams order their stuff. And I just created mock-ups and sent them to Verbero, who does our jerseys. And I was like, hey, can you, because at the time it was just squares, how the horseshoes are. And I was like, can you change these to horseshoes and make it like a light blue? And they were like, yeah. So they sent them to me, instantly loved them. So I'm glad to see that they were a big hit.
Yeah. And I for one did not capitalize on buying that one in particular, but I did snag an actual jersey when the order came up. And again, they're not for sale now, but I encourage again fans, when that does come up, you've got to get it again. Do you have some information on when they'll be up to order again?
We actually just reopened the store, so it should be in our bio on our Instagram and Facebook if you want to go there. I think we opened it today actually.
There you go. Okay, so unplanned plug there for you guys, but I was excited about the jersey when I found out about the ordering a couple of years ago. Because I think, again, it's great to obviously support you guys. And I know I actually worked with someone who played in the club team years ago. So I was all about supporting it. And of course the fans, you guys are going to nationals coming up. How far away are you from nationals? Is there any way that fans could financially support you guys with another GoFundMe? Are you doing anything like that for nationals?
So our GoFundMe is actually still up. We're just leaving it up because you can go past the goal or whatever. We'll go to nationals. What day is this? So here in like 2 weeks, I think it's March 17th. We'll leave that morning and we'll play the 18th. So we could see potentially 6 games in 6 days, which is going to be a grind, but obviously we've never been and we're super excited for it.
Absolutely. Well, that March 17th there at the Nationals, as you said, the GoFundMe, for those that are watching on YouTube, we will have the link in the description below. We'll also have it on our description there on any of your streaming services. You just have to make sure you find your way to the details. But if you want to support the hockey team, that's the best way to do so as they make that trip to Nationals on the 17th. So a little less than 2 weeks in the day of this, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to take any type of donations you guys are willing to give. But Linden, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, talk a little hockey, kind of a new wave for me. I never had an in with the hockey program. I'm excited for what you guys have done in your 2 years of being a president, being conference champions, and we wish you all the best of luck in Nationals in 2 weeks.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for supporting us with that jersey order. It actually does help, so thank you.
Thanks again to all of our guests today, Joe Fisher, the voice of the Lady Raiders, of course, Tre Green taking time out of his busy schedule, and Linden Palmer as they prepare for a national championship run in 2 weeks. Again, and find in that description below the link to their GoFundMe. Of course, he just said they reopened the store for those jerseys. So if you already missed your opportunity to buy a jersey, you need to make sure you do so. Scoop it up while you still can. Trust me, they are really good looking sweaters. So highly recommend that. But thanks to you guys for listening to today's episode. Next week, we are going down to Huntsville. The BRP is taking the show on the road down to Huntsville next week. We will do a preview episode on Tuesday as we look ahead with the brackets. Everything will be set. We'll actually be doing some live recordings all week down there at the Conference USA tournament in Huntsville. Of course, I hope to see all you fans there, but just know that the BRP will continue to roll next week at the Conference USA tournament. But I appreciate everyone for listening today. If you're not already doing so, make sure you follow us on all of our social medias at Instagram, Twitter/X, TikTok, and of course, YouTube. We're really close to that 100 subscriber mark. So make sure if you're listening and you're not subscribed, take the quick time to just click that subscribe button, help us get closer to 100. So thanks again for tuning in to this week's episode. And until next time, go Blue.